Yeah, it's your boy Logos. And today I want to react to Thomas Sowell recommending some books that will hopefully drop knowledge on us or change our perspective on the way we see the world. This doesn't seem like a very, gotcha or catchy type video title, but this is going to help spread knowledge and education. So I'm always going to support that no matter what type of views or response I get. So let's get into it.
From time to time, readers ask me what books have made the biggest difference in my life. I am not sure how to answer that question because the books that happen to set me off in a particular direction at a particular time may have no profound or valuable message for others, and can even be books I no longer believe in today. The first book that got me interested in political issues was Actions and Passions by Max Lerner, which I read at age 19. It was a collection of his newspaper columns, none of which I remember today, and all of which were vintage liberalism, which even Max Lerner himself apparently had second thoughts about in his later years. The writings of Karl Marx, especially the Communist Manifesto, had the longest-lasting effect on me as a young man, and led me to become and remain a Marxist throughout my 20s. I wouldn't recommend the Communist Manifesto today either, except as an example of a masterpiece of propaganda.
Funny, I said in a previous video, and I believe I heard this from a previous joke. No, I think it was Jordan Peterson or somebody else. But a lot of young people, including my generation, start off as very liberal, Marxist, and as they get older and see the world more and see it's not as black or white as they hope it would be, or they think it may be, they start turning more, not conservative, but more centered. They're not as ravenous, they're not as political, or if they are political, they're more even on the spectrum. They're not just hard one line or one hard line the other way. And that's very interesting to see. But my one concern is with the way that colleges are nowadays and the heavy-handed way they push the ideology is that we may mess up our country before we can get to the point that people can, I don't want to say wake up, but at least think a different perspective than the stuff they get pushed on them when they was 18 to 25. That's all I got to say.
There was no book that changed my mind about being on the political left. Life experience did that, especially the experience of seeing government at work from the inside. The book that permanently made me a sadder, and hopefully wiser, was Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
I feel like a fake military history Roman Empire nerd simply because of the fact that I haven't read this book yet. But the fact that he read it and it had such an impact on him, I'm going to go check it out pretty soon. But my knowledge of Roman history, my favorite area, I can completely understand why, because I've listened to Mike Duncan's History of Rome podcast, and just seeing the rise and fall, it is pretty sad, especially when you get to the later years after Trajan, after Diocletian, after I don't know why his Constantine. After those years and the decline and Attila and all the stuff that happens to the Western Roman Empire, I can see why it would sadden you, but also make you a lot more aware of the world. Because I see a lot of that stuff that happened then similar to nowadays because of just the way that we're declining. But it is different because when the Roman Republic declined, they had, Julius Caesar, Pompey, different Roman senators and patricians could pay and have personal armies under them. We're probably never gonna have that in the United States or in the world. It's like, dictatorship, but that's not republic to begin with. But I can see some parallels, so that stuff does make me a lot more wary about the future that I am living in. But hopefully I could be somebody like fucking Cicero, who even though he knew he might have seen the end of the republic that he did love, he still supported it and fought for it to the very end. So hopefully I can have a little bit of an impact like that. So let's go.
To follow one of the greatest civilizations of all time as it degenerated and fractured, even before being torn apart by its enemies, was especially painful in view of the parallels to what is happening in America in our own times. The fall of the Roman Empire was not just a matter of changing rulers or political systems. It was the collapse of a whole civilization, the destruction of an economy, the breakdown of law and order, the disappearance of many educational institutions. It has been estimated that 1,000 years passed before the standard of living in Western Europe rose again to the level it had once had back in Roman times.
If you think that's an exaggeration, people who lived after the Romans and the Western Roman civilization collapsed, they used to see the aqueducts and other like buildings and stuff and couldn't understand how those stuff was made because of architecture and just the design and sometimes just the size itself was incomprehensible to them because they lived in such a small world type way, but they didn't have this big flourishing civilization that the Roman Empire had, especially under the Pax Romana, which means I think the peace of Rome or the Roman peace under Augustus and the following emperors.
How long would it take to recover from the collapse of Western civilization today, if we ever recovered? The kinds of books most readers seem to have in mind when they ask for my recommendations are books that go to the heart of a particular subject, books that open the eyes of the reader in a mind-changing way. James Q. Wilson's books on crime are like that, shattering the illusions of the intelligentsia about root causes, prevention programs, rehabilitation, and other trendy nonsense. Professor Wilson's books are a strong dose of hard facts that counter mushy rhetoric.
Yeah, I'm definitely have to check that out because I'm very interested to see his position on the root cause of crime. Because the thing is, crime isn't just a one people issue or one era type thing. Crime has existed since the beginning of civilization. Of course, somebody can want to steal from you if they have nothing, or they're just going to steal because they're greedy. At a certain point, we got so progressed enough as a society, we had rules and laws, and that was betterment for everybody. That's why I don't understand is defunding police stuff, or some people who want anarchism. A lot of dumbasses from my generation say that shit, even though they have no idea what that stuff really means.
Peter Bauer's books on economic development demolish many myths about the causes of poverty in the Third World and about foreign aid as a way of relieving that poverty. The last of these books was the best: Equality, the Third World, and Economic Delusion. If you are interested specifically in why Latin American economies have lagged behind for so long, try reading Underdevelopment is a State of Mind by Lawrence Harrison. Among my own books, those that the most readers have said changed their minds have been A Conflict of Visions, Basic Economics, and Black Rednecks and White Liberals.
That's what I'm reading right now, Black Rednecks, White Liberals. I'll probably have to take a cut back on everything else so I can make sure I get through it because, stuff be had to, especially with the podcast. But so far, excellent book.
A Conflict of Visions is my own favorite among my books. It traces the underlying assumptions behind opposing ideologies that have dominated the Western world over the past 2 centuries and are still going strong today. The Vision of the Anointed is another book of mine that deals with the same subject, but concentrating on the conflicts of our time, and it is written in a more readable style, not as academic as A Conflict of Visions. The most readable of this list of my books is Basic Economics, which may also be the most needed, as suggested by its being translated into 6 foreign languages.
Damn.
Black Rednecks and White Liberals challenges much that has been said and accepted, not only about blacks, but about Jews, Germans, white Southerners, and others.
And I love that book so much because he directly talks about so much stuff that we today talk about black culture, want to defend and love so much, but it's really not originated with black people. But we act like it is so much, and it's really some stuff that is detrimental to us.
Experience has probably changed more minds than books have, but some books can pull your experiences together and show how they require a very different vision of the world.
That is very, very true. That's why I always encourage people to read or at least try audiobooks or podcasts or just learn some more and just take on information. And also just get away from social media and electronics from time to time. When you're on the drive to work, when you're working out, or anything at all, shoot, even if you're just hopping on the games on 2K, just play a podcast on in the background, you could just chill and listen to that and maybe learn a little something. And if you don't soak it in the first time, just listen to it again the second time and you might love it again. I've done that to so many podcasts, especially Dan Carlin's history series. his like 8 hour, 10 hour, 12, 15 hour episode series. Listen to those like 3 times because the information's so good, but the presentation's so good. So if you love history, especially military history, check out Dan Carlin, his podcast. The individual episodes is pretty cheap on his website and such good information. Another place I love to listen to for my history is Kings and Generals and Baz Battles. There's so many more, but those are the first two that come up the top of my head. But that's it for now. It's your boy Logos, and I'll talk to y'all next time. And read a fucking book.